Hello everybody, this is Danny, Deep South Homestead on Porch Time today. Got some severe weather fixing to come in here. I'm hoping I can get this done before then. So I'm in my studio room. Can't get out on the porch or go to the cabin because it'd be too much noise, you wouldn't be able to hear it. But I wanted to talk a little bit about a subject that seems to be a subject that everybody's talking about. And that is getting to my homestead. There's lots and lots and lots of people talking about that, and there are people who's already made it to their homesteads. And to me, I'm going to liken the homestead to the promised land. Because if you stop and think about it, when Abraham was looking for the promised land, and he was looking for a place to arrive to, in other words, he was looking for a place to, when I just get there, I just want to get there. And we're a lot like that with our homesteads, you know. Man, I just want to get my homestead. I just want to get there. When I get there, everything's going to be all right, you know. Well, I got news for you. When you arrive, that's when the work begins, you know. And a lot like Sarah with Abraham was. Sarah, when they first made it into Canaan, and she's like, finally, you know, we're here, you know, and we're going to put down roots and we're going to do this. And then Abraham says, no, we build an altar. And then he worshiped the Lord. And he says, we're just going to go a little bit further. You know, and she's like, oh, you know, and guys, it's a lot like that. We have a tendency as humans to build up something, to be something that it's maybe not, you know. Here where I live at, I've lived here, this year will be 30 years I've lived on this property that I own here. And I didn't originally start out here. I originally started out across the road on another piece of property over yonder. And I was the only one on this property other than one old man who lived down the road and was probably the best neighbor that a man would ever in his life want. You know, just a gentle soul. Very good man, never bothered you. I mean, very wise. And God, I believe, instituted me coming here in the beginning. And I was out here with my family in the middle of the woods. It was just me. And I was young. And that was what I thought was the greatest thing in the world. I lived here for quite a few years, and then the unthinkable happened. Realtors showed up and bought all the land around me. And my utopia, or my promised land, ended. So I had arrived to what I thought was the promised land. But then after so many years, it changed. Now, how many times in life have we hoped for something that we thought once we had it would settle all of our problems? And you see, homesteads is a lot like that. We have this thought that if I could just get my homestead, it's going to settle all my problems. Well, that's what I thought. Like I've told you, I moved out here. I thought, man, I had the perfect place. There was wildlife everywhere. I mean, deer all the time, turkeys all the time. But then I planted a big cornfield, and next thing I know, the turkeys is all in my corn, the coons is all in my corn, the deer's in my corn, and I was just like, oh my gosh, you know, what am I going to do? Because I was so rural, and there was nobody but me, the wildlife is like, whoa, we got a smorgasbord here, you know? So I ended up having to eradicate a lot of animals and thin them down to the point to where I could manage them. So my promised land, all of a sudden, wasn't a promised land. It was a place that had a lot of problems, is what it was. And then I wanted to get animals, and I quickly realized that, oh my gosh, I got to put up tons of fencing. And I got to have equipment. I got to clear land, because I tried clearing it by hand, and I'm like, no, this ain't this ain't working. So I ended up having to bring in heavy equipment. Luckily, my family owned a lot of heavy equipment, and I was able to bring it in and do a lot of land clearing and clear out fence rows and stuff like that. And my thought was, boy, if I just had this homestead place, all my problems would go away. Well, no, some problems did go away. But what happened was I inherited a whole new set of challenges that I had to learn to deal with that I originally didn't have to deal with. So we can see, and y'all may hear this weather getting really bad out here because the trees are just like bowing over really big time. And hopefully we can get through this without too much of a problem. How many times have we prayed for something that never happened? I know me personally, I moved from here several years ago and was gone. I was gone for about a year, and I moved up to central Mississippi for about a year. And I kept this place, but I moved up there. And I found this place. There was 92 acres, I'll never forget it. Had a brick home on it, 3-bedroom brick home, a nice creek running through it. It had a shop that was like 90-something feet long, 16-foot ceilings, 40-something feet wide, had 3 huge bays you could drive 18-wheelers through them. I mean, to me, this was like the perfect place. It had fields, it had planted pine timber on it and everything, hardwood, you know. To me, it was the perfect homestead, and I could have gotten it for $70,000. And I was just like, God, I want this, you know. And I was trying everything. The man had cancer, and he was dying, and it was just, he had several properties, and he just wanted to unload them right quick. And I started negotiating with him. Well, the negotiation it drug on for the whole year I was up there. He was going in and out of doctor's office. He was sick. I couldn't get to him. And then the next thing I know, he comes up to me one day and he says, well, they've come up with this new treatment. They're going to seed pod my lungs with something. I didn't understand what he was talking about. He said, supposedly it's going to eradicate my problem. So I think I'm not going to sell. Not right now. And man, I was just like heartbroken. And I ended up moving back down here to where I'm at now. And when I got down here, shortly right after I moved back here, my wife come down with cancer, and then 6 years later ended up passing away. And God told me, he said, Danny, the reason I didn't give you that piece of property up there was because if I had, you would be left up there all alone and away from anything you were familiar with. And then my health broke down, and right after that, and it's just one of the things that it was best that it happened that way. Even though I prayed for it and I really wanted it, God held it from me, and it's best that he did. Because I'm still here where I originally was. I've been able to enjoy the homestead I have here. I was able to remarry sometime later to Wanda, and we've been able to keep this homestead going because it was already set up, and I didn't have to reset a homestead up. How many times in life have we said, if I could only have this, it would settle all my problems in life? You know, and guys, that's one of those things. I think we all say that at some point in our life. I think we all come to the realization that, you know, we ask ourselves the question, man, if I just had this would settle a lot of my problems. And that's human nature. I mean, I'm still that way today. Wanda and I was like, man, if we just had us a cabin back here, that would be great. You know, man, we'd have a place to go back here. We could just get away from the electronics here. It's an off-grid cabin. We can get away from all the electronic stuff here, the microwaves that's going through here and everything, the EMFs and all that kind of stuff that's in the house. Now let's just see if we can rest better. Not having all the electricity around us. You know, not being able to flip light switches and all that kind of stuff. And And it has been. It has been a beautiful journey for us to get there. But with it comes a whole new set of problems. You know, I'm trying to run a homestead here, but I've also got to build a cabin. And when you have a building exposed to the elements, then you have to make sure you get it blacked and dried in and get the outside completely finished. I mean, the inside can wait, but the outside, you've got to get it completed. And guys, it's turned into a massive chore because this thing is just grown to a monster now. And it's okay, but it did not happen as fast as we thought it was going to happen. Let's put it that way. And when we're over there, now we have to play we have a wind-up radio. We have to play a wind-up radio over there because there's there's noises over there from neighbors that we don't have as bad right here. Even though the neighbor's dogs is very loud over there, for some reason, I don't know how, it overpasses our house. And maybe it's because it's not insulated yet. No, I mean, that may be it. And we like to have the windows open over there because it's all grid. We can hear all the dogs barking. We can hear kids hollering. We can hear other neighbors with other issues going on. So it's turned out to be not what we exactly thought it would be. But it's still a good move, we believe. So sometimes when we get what we want, it doesn't necessarily solve all of our problems. And guys, sometimes when we get the promised land, a lot of us, I can honestly say, I've owned 3 homesteads in my lifetime. And each homestead come with its own challenges. 2 of them I moved from for different reasons. One, family was just too close. They were right next door to us, and it was always, it was one of those things that was just always in our hair. We couldn't do anything. I mean, they thought they should be able to tell us what to do and how to run everything, and it was always watching who's at your house and all this kind of stuff. And I'm like, I didn't want to be there anymore. I said, you know what, I want to move. And we moved out to this place. It was very rural, and I stayed there some 10 years at that location. And then I built my dream home there. And then all of a sudden, I ended up going through a divorce. And, I gave the house away. I gave it to her. I gave it to the lady I was married to at the time. I didn't have a problem with it. Because I was in the construction business, my thing was I'll just build another one. Well, when I built this house according to the lady I married. And this is a country Victorian home with a little bit of a Louisiana Acadian mixed in with it. And to be honest with you, it's really not who I am. I basically did it for the lady that I married. And now I'm sitting here going, what I thought was the perfect homestead is not so perfect for me anymore. Even though the home is beautiful and I love it, don't get me wrong, I love the house. I love the way it looks. I love its functionality. I love a lot of stuff about the house. But it's not the style of person who I am. So that's one thing Wanda and I talked about. We've made a lot of changes in the house to try to make it more country than what it originally was, but you can't take away from the fact that it was a Victorian. You can't change that. And so Wanda and I have decided to go across the hill over here on the back of our property, and we built us a cabin that was who we were. And I've done that, and it is a lot more of who I am. And that's what makes it so peaceful to me, is that it is just that. But, like I mentioned earlier, with that has come a whole new set of challenges. And just because you arrive in the promised land doesn't mean everything's going to be hunky-dory for you. That homestead that you think is so perfect, at some point may come with challenges that you're not thinking about. Because when I moved across the road over here out in the middle of nowhere, it was so good. The land was rich, the land was fertile. I mean, it was new virgin land. When I got all the timber pushed up, I had beautiful pasture land. I had cattle. I think I had 29 or 30 head of cattle on all the property I had out here. I was raising calves. I mean, I had pigs and chickens and, you know, I mean, goats and everything. And I had fields of crops. I was selling my crops. Everything was going really, really good. Plenty of wildlife. If I wanted deer for the freezer, I could take it just about any time I wanted to. Turkeys, I could take one when I wanted to. And then, like I told you, the unthinkable happened. I come home one day and a man is walking around. He's on my property, actually, walking around with a spray paint can in his hand, marking pine trees. And I walked out there and I said, "Sir, can I ask you what you're doing?" He says, "Well, we're marking these trees to cut." I said, "Well, I got news for you. You're not cutting these." And he said, "I don't understand." He said, "Why not?" I told him, I said, "Because you're on my property." And he had walked across landlines and did not realize where the landlines were, because at that time I hadn't put up any fences. The landlines were just flagged at the corners. And I took him and showed him the landlines, and he had to go back and take all the paint off the trees, and then he had to flag the landlines. And he told me, he says, "Well, some realtors from another county had moved in here, had come in here and bought all this land around you, and they're going to be cutting it, thinning it out, taking the pines off of it, leaving nothing but the hardwoods." So I immediately contacted these people, these realtors, and I went ahead and bought what I could afford to buy that day, and with the timber still on it, and was going to purchase the 20 that was behind me back here, but a gentleman beat me to it just basically by minutes, and I was pretty upset about it, but at the same time, it is what it is. And now I have neighbors all around me everywhere. My promised land is no longer a promised land for me. Now it's a place where I'll have to learn to cope with society. I have to learn to cope with neighbors that don't have the same mentality that I do. You know, everybody's, they like their noises. They're more city than they are country. And they just, serenity doesn't mean anything to them. When they think about serenity, they think about, I'm going to go on a vacation and I'm going to have it when I get there, but this is just home. We're just doing what we're going to do here. And home is my serenity. I love peace and quiet. I love hearing nature, and I don't mind hearing tractors running, and I don't mind hearing a lawnmower or something like that, because I know those are things that goes along with the country life. I don't mind hearing cows mooing, or goats ablating, or chickens crowing, or roosters crowing, or hogs oinking, and ducks and stuff like that. I don't mind that because that's country life. But there's lots of other noises that, you know, is not country life. We have lots of people out here that's got loud engines in vehicles, and, you know, and packs of hunting dogs and stuff like that. That's not country life. When you have to listen to that, there's no serenity to that. There's no peace to that. So my promised land has turned into not a promised land anymore. It's a place that I have to learn to adjust and cope to. And that's the point I'm trying to make to you guys. Don't think just because you move to a specific place that you're going to always have what you have at that moment. I never dreamed, because this family that I bought my land from, this land had been in their family for 100 years. And I had no reason to believe that they would ever sell it. I mean, they just agreed to sell me a small piece of it. And they told me, said, anytime you want any more, just let us know, because we knew your family, and your family was good people. And we don't mind having somebody like you out there to watch their land, because technically I overseen the land for them. I've done timber thinnings for the people. I put up gates across all the roads on their properties, kept trespassers off. I've done this kind of stuff for this family. And the family did agree occasionally to sell me land as time went on. But then there was just a point that the older generation turned it over to the younger generation, and the younger generation does what younger generations do. They just said, well, we're going to sell it. You know, and that's what happened. It caught me off guard. Looking back, I should have went ahead and just bought all. I should have just went in debt, because really it wasn't very expensive for land back then. I could get it for $900 an acre back then. And looking back now, I should have went and bought most of it. I could have afforded the note. I just didn't think that it would sell. And I made a mistake. You know, we all make those mistakes. So don't think that things will always be the way they are, because lots of times they're not. Now, Wanda and I, we sit back and we talk about moving. We talk about finding a new location with lots more land. But all the places we go and look at, each one of them has their own challenges. And it's something that, because of my physical issues now, I'm not sure that I could start from scratch and build a whole new homestead again. Because it's a lot of work. Now, if I was young, yes, I could do it. But building this cabin has proved to me that building something no larger than it is, which is still a pretty good sized building, is a big challenge for me at my age. Now, if I had the money to just pour into it and do it the way I want to do it immediately, I could probably make this thing happen pretty quick. But Wanda and I pay cash for stuff as we go along. We don't go in debt for anything like that, because we don't want notes beating us in the face each month. So we pay cash for what we do. And it's proved to be a big challenge. And it's let me know that if I was to move somewhere else and I had to have a house to build, that I'm not sure I could build the whole house, you know, without having to hire a lot of it done. And suppose, what if my health deteriorated even more to the point where I couldn't build a barn, or where I couldn't put up fencing and all this kind of stuff. Moving is still something that we consider, but it's not something we're actively seeking to do. It's one of those things that if it happens, it happens. If not, then we're okay. It's just that our dream was to live out our senior years in peace and quiet and enjoy our life. And it's not going to be like that, it looks like. Unless we can find another place that has everything we already need on it. A barn, a home, fencing, you know, fruit trees and stuff like that. We can plant some of them and might still have time for some of them to bear before we get too old. But unless we could find the perfect place, which we found some that's, I'm talking about there knocking on the door being it. You know, we haven't made that leap yet, let's put it that way. And we would probably, if we did that, I probably would turn this over to a developer of some sort and let him go ahead and just develop the place, because you could put several houses in here on our property. It's designed where you could, because we would want to pay cash for everything we purchased, so that we don't inherit even more challenges when we get where we're going. So, guys, the whole point of Porch Time today has been, don't think that your promised land, which is most people's homesteads, will always be like it is. Now, you may be one of those rare people that it actually ends up being like it is the rest of your life. And if it is, look, I'll raise my hand and say, praise God, you're one of those people. But it's not always the norm, let me say that. But don't get discouraged. Learn to adjust, learn to adapt, and learn to overcome your obstacles. And that's what we're doing here at Deep South Homestead. And I'm not trying to say I have bad neighbors. Now, I'm not trying to say that. What I am saying is that the type of life that Wanda and I want to live, we don't have enough land here to live that life. It's becoming even more and more challenging for us to raise enough food, to have enough field space, to raise our cattle and our goats, and have enough grass. These are the challenges that we're facing now. If we were to move, it would not be because of all because of neighbors. No, it would be simply because we need more space for what's coming in order for us to be able to survive. We don't feel like on our land here, because all of our land's on hills. We have no flat land other than one little swamp bottom down in here, and that's where the cows is at right now. It's very difficult for us to garden because everything has to be terraced, and when these massive floods like we're getting now with the climate changes that we're experiencing, y'all saw in one of our previous videos what the water done. I mean, we had water come through our property here at 30 and 40 feet wide, 4 foot deep. And we have terraces everywhere, and it didn't even stop it. It just went right over them. I mean, you know, we have hugel beds, 150 foot long hugel beds. It just went right over them because there was just so much water hit the ground. I don't care what you do, you can't stop that much water. So the older we get, we realize that if these things are going to become more prevalent as we get older, it might be better that we have something a little more level where the water doesn't run hills and gullies and hollers like it does here, and take all of our fencing out. So these are the things that we're looking at as we get older. And there is a possibility, we've talked about turning this all back into wildlife and doing more container gardening, more raised bed gardening, and trying to see if we could come up with a way to produce enough food that way to sustain us should something happen. One thing we like about the property here is it has ample water supply. There's tons of water here, and it's very easy to get. It's very good water. It's one of those things, you have the pros and cons on the promised land. It's which ones is the most important to you is, I guess, where we're going with this whole thing. If you can accept what you have and the challenges that you have there, then maybe you've reached where you need to be. But if you can't accept your challenges and you can't work through them, then maybe it's possible that you need to relocate. But I'm going to tell you this, and I mean what I'm saying. Another reason we're not actively jumping out right this minute is because we're right on the threshold of our food supply going haywire. And it would mean that Wanda and I would have to learn how to adjust to a whole nother piece of property. We know the ground here, we know how to work it, and we know what it will do and we know what it will not do. If we was to move to a new location, then we would have to learn that all over again. And I don't know if we have enough time to do that. So hang with us. See what the future does for Deep South Homestead. You might be surprised what happens. The weather's fixing to get really bad here, so let me, you probably hear the rain on the metal roof here, but let me go ahead and jump off here and say, guys, look, today's talk is not about discouraging you from purchasing a homestead. It's to make you think about purchasing a homestead. Because most people think a homestead is going to be their promised land, and it just might come with a whole new set of challenges that you don't have where you're at now. So guys, thank you for watching, and thank you from Deep South Homestead.